These are the GitOps principles. And now every time somebody says, hey, I'm using GitOps, you can ask the simple question, do you follow all of them? Okay, that's the $1 million question. So let's answer this question for Terraform. I love Terraform. Okay, so let's ask the question, does Terraform satisfy the 4 GitOps principles? And the answer is no. It actually satisfies only the first one. So if you remember the GitOps principles, the first one is that you should store your state in a declarative format. And Terraform does this. You create HCL files, they are declarative, and this is where you say what needs to happen. Okay? There's no discussion there. That's fine. But every other GitOps principle is not satisfied. The second one, and I think this is the one that most people get confused, is that Terraform has its own state, okay, its own state file. If you set up Terraform, usually you create a nested bucket or some other, cloud storage medium, depends on the cloud provider, and there you store your state. So it's not in Git. If you ask Terraform, hey, what is your view of the world right now? Terraform will not go to Git. It will go to its own state. But the key point here is that not only this is not Git, but it's also mutable. This is a mutable, let's say, construct for Terraform. You can go and manually change the state after creation. And with Git, this doesn't happen. If you have a Git commit, you know exactly what is in that Git commit. You can ask yourself, hey, what did we have in production last Thursday? And if you're following GitOps, you can go to your Git repo, go to last Thursday, find the file, and say, last Thursday we had this, this, and this. If you ask what we had to Terraform last Thursday, you don't really know. Last Thursday, there was a state file, and somebody might have changed it. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit about more the state, but just keep in mind the second principle is not honored. The third principle is also very simple. By default, Terraform is just a CLI. Okay, it's not an agent that you have in your cluster and it runs and it pulls state. It's an external CLI, and you run it on your own, and you run it in a completely different infrastructure than the infrastructure that you create on. So maybe you have a Jenkins, and then you run your Terraform CLI, and Terraform creates some VMs in the cloud somewhere else. So it's a completely traditional way of creating infrastructure. Now, there are other commercial solutions that I'm not going to mention that change this way, and that's fine, but we are still talking about vanilla Terraform here. And by default, unless you do something specific, you run Terraform once. So not even the last principle is honored. You run Terraform. Terraform says, okay, what do I need to do? I need to create 4 VMs, and then that's it. It doesn't know anything else. So if after 5 minutes you go and manually delete one of those virtual machines, Terraform knows nothing at all. Okay, you need to manually run Terraform again and again and again. So now, just setting the stage here, it's only 1 out of 4.